All right, welcome in, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling a topic that's pretty personal for a lot of folks, and that's diabetes. But hey, don't let that word make you nervous, you know? We're not here to scare anybody.
Right. We want this to be more like getting a clear roadmap, A roadmap to really understanding and managing this condition, which, believe it or not, has a history as rich and fascinating as, well, anything you'll find in a history book.
Exactly. And the sheer scale of it today, I mean, wow, the numbers are kind of eye-opening. The International Diabetes Federation, the IDF, they're saying by this year, 2025, we're looking at 537 million adults worldwide living with diabetes.
537 million. That's a huge jump from just 6 years ago, back in 2019, when it was 463 million. And these aren't just, abstract numbers, right?
Right.
Each one is a person, a family dealing with this every single day.
Absolutely. And that's why we're here. We've done a lot of digging, gathered tons of info, research, all that good stuff to bring you, our listener, the absolute key insights. We're going way back in time, seeing how people even understood this thing, then through the incredible scientific leaps, and right up to where we stand today, here in 2025.
But most importantly, right, we want to equip you with the tools. Practical stuff you can actually use, actionable strategies for managing diabetes, and, we'll be paying special attention to what this all means for women's health because, well, it's a bit different, isn't it?
It is. Okay, so are you ready to go way back? I mean, way back to when, let's just say, medical knowledge was a tad less precise?
Oh yeah, buckle up. It's fascinating to see how long we humans have been trying to wrap our heads around this, what we now call diabetes. We found stuff going all the way back to ancient Egypt, like 1500 BCE, that's over 3,000 years ago? And even back then, right, those healers, they were noticing something. They were seeing people with this strange condition marked by what they called, and I love this, too great emptying of urine. I mean, they didn't have blood sugar tests or anything, but they were picking up on a major symptom.
And even the name itself, it kind of tells a story, doesn't it?
It does. It was a Greek physician, Apollonius of Memphis, around 250 BCE. He gave us the term diabetes. Literally means to go through, or think of a siphon, again, focusing on that excessive urination.
So fast forward a few centuries, hop over to ancient India, about 600 BCE, and we meet this physician, Sushruta. And he's got a different name for it, right?
He does. He called it Madhumer, which, get this, translates to honey urine. Pretty poetic, huh?
Honey urine.
Yeah, I can see that. But it's not just the name that's insightful. Sushruta, he had this, this bizarre diagnostic trick. He noticed that ants would be attracted to the urine of people with this condition.
Yes.
Yep. Kind of makes you think twice about, leaving your sugary drinks lying around, doesn't it? But it was, believe it or not, an effective way to detect the presence of sugar. And you're not going to believe this. Some sources even say those ancient docs would, get this, taste the urine to confirm the sweetness.
Whoa. Talk about dedication to your patients, huh?
Talk about hands-on diagnostics.
So for thousands of years, it was basically observing symptoms, maybe even taste testing, let's call it. But then boom, the 20th century rolls in, and suddenly, 1921, we have this incredible discovery, the isolation of insulin by Frederick Banting and Charles Best. That changed everything, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Game changer. That discovery was like a lightning bolt to the whole field. We even have accounts of its impact, immediately. There was this 14-year-old boy close to death, and insulin brought him back.
Correct. They
won the Nobel Prize, and rightfully so, in 1923. I mean, it was monumental.
And the science just kept on rolling, right? Synthetic insulin in the 80s, then glucose monitors in the 2000s, giving people like you the power to track their own levels. Talk about progress.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride. But here's the thing. Despite these amazing advances, sadly, the number of people with diabetes has just kept going up. Now, it's important to understand we're talking about two main types here, okay? You've got type 1, which is autoimmune. The body basically attacks itself, destroying the cells that make insulin in the pancreas. That's about 10% of cases.
Right.
Then you've got type 2, the more common one, about 90% of cases. And this one, it's heavily linked to lifestyle factors. Both types have a genetic component, sure, but with type 2, the connection to diet and, our modern lifestyle, all that sitting around, it's undeniable.
And here's a point, especially for our female listeners. In 2025, there's a real difference in how this affects men and women. The IDF, they say there's a whopping 20 million more women living with diabetes than men. That's not a small difference.
No, not at all. And some of it's hormonal, the fluctuations throughout a woman's life, pregnancy, that whole experience, and just stress. It all plays a role. We'll dig deeper into that as we go. But taking a look back at history, it really shows us the context, for the challenges we're still facing today.
It does. So let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about those key moments in science, the ones that didn't just give us knowledge, but real solutions. We've touched on insulin, of course, life-saving, but what other breakthroughs have really made a difference in how people manage diabetes day to day?
Well, several come to mind that have really changed the game. For instance, you've got the HbA1c test that came out in 1985. Really insightful because it finally gave us a way to see the big picture, not just a snapshot of your blood sugar at one moment, but a view of long-term control.
Makes sense.
This test, it measures your average blood sugar over the past 90 days. So it became an invaluable tool, not just for managing long-term, but also, you could actually see if your treatment was working.
Oh, much more helpful than just a single reading, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Then in the 90s, we saw metformin really taking off, especially for type 2.
Right. Metformin, very common medication for type 2. It tackles this thing called insulin resistance. Basically, your cells become kind of resistant to the insulin signal, the signal to absorb sugar. So metformin helps the body use the insulin it's already making better, and it actually helps reduce how much glucose the liver makes too. It's a cornerstone treatment for a lot of folks with type 2.
And jumping ahead to more recent times, just last year, 2023, the FDA approved these hybrid closed-loop systems for type 1 diabetes. I mean, that sounds incredibly advanced.
It is. Imagine it's like your insulin pump and your continuous glucose monitor actually talking to each other. They adjust the insulin dose automatically without you constantly having to do it. It's like it mimics a healthy pancreas, you know? It's been a huge step forward for type 1 management, really improving glucose control.
And speaking of breakthroughs, I got to mention this study that just came out, March 2025. It's from Stanford, and it shows that making changes to the gut microbiome, through probiotics, could actually reduce glucose spikes in type 2. By, get this, 15%.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable. And it shows how much we're learning about the connection between our gut and, everything else, the gut-brain axis, some people call it. This research shows how powerful gut bacteria can be, even affecting how we process glucose. It might be a whole new way to manage type 2, just by changing what we eat to support those good bacteria.
It seems like research is also paying more attention to women's specific needs now. Which is great.
Yeah.
We saw that there's been a 30% increase in research on gestational diabetes just since 2022, and they're looking into how prenatal diet can impact the risk of developing diabetes after pregnancy.
That's so crucial. I mean, gestational diabetes, it's something that develops during pregnancy, and it can have big implications for both mom and baby. So understanding what a woman eats while she's pregnant can lower those risks. It's vital. And it's a good sign, It shows we're moving towards more personalized care, more sex-specific approaches to understanding and managing diabetes.
So we've gone from ancient observations to, cutting-edge genetic and microbial investigations. Talk about human ingenuity, right?
Okay.
But let's get a snapshot of where we are now, here in 2025. What's the current situation with diabetes globally?
Well, the picture, as of March 2025, according to the World Health Organization, it's a bit of a mixed bag. 1 in 10 adults worldwide has diabetes, and sadly, it contributes to 1.2 million deaths every year. Type 2, like we said, it's the most common, and a study from this year, published in The Lancet, really highlights how much our sedentary lifestyles are to blame. 40% of adults, that's a big chunk, they aren't even meeting the minimum recommended physical activity levels.
And we've talked about this a bit earlier, but for our listeners, especially women, it's so important to really get the challenges you face.
You're right. There are some key concerns. For example, the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, they say women with PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, have double the risk of developing type 2.
That's significant.
It is. And then there's menopause. The hormonal shifts there, they can lead to decreased insulin sensitivity. And of course, there's gestational diabetes that affects about 1 in 6 pregnancies.
Yeah.
And that comes with its own long-term risk. According to our data, it increases the chance of developing type 2 later in life by 50%. So yeah, these are all really important things for women to be aware of.
Absolutely crucial. What about technology? What role is it playing in managing diabetes in 2025?
Oh, technology is becoming more and more essential. We're seeing tons of people using smartwatches, continuous glucose monitors, things like that. They give you real-time data on your glucose levels, which honestly, it's amazing. It helps you make smart decisions about your food, exercise, medication, everything. It puts people in the driver's seat.
But it sounds like, even with all the gadgets, the basics, a healthy lifestyle, that's still the bedrock.
100%. A study just this year in Nature, it really emphasizes that point. It found that getting around 7 hours of good sleep, quality sleep, it's linked to a 20% improvement in blood sugar control. I mean, that's huge. It just goes to show managing diabetes, it's holistic, It's not just pills or devices. It's about healthy habits woven into your everyday life.
Right. Let's get to the good stuff. The practical advice, the things we can actually use. What are some, let's call them control like a boss, tips for managing diabetes, especially for you, our listener?
Okay, let's break it down. First, food. There's this myth out there that you got to ditch all carbs, but the American Diabetes Association, the ADA, in their 2025 guidelines, they actually say aim for 45 to 60 grams of carbs per meal. It's more about the kind of carbs you choose and how you combine them.
So not restriction, but smart choices. How can people actually do that?
Exactly. One tip, always pair your carbs with fiber. Think quinoa instead of white rice, Fiber slows down how fast your body absorbs glucose, so you don't get those crazy blood sugar spikes. And here's a little hack for you. Research, including this meta-analysis from 2024, it shows that just a teaspoon of cinnamon a day could lower fasting glucose by about 10%.
Cinnamon. Easy peasy. Now, what about advice specifically for women, maybe those dealing with PCOS?
Well, for women with PCOS, we're seeing some interesting research from 2025 on inositol-rich berries. Inositol is a type of sugar alcohol, and studies suggest it might help with hormone balance and insulin sensitivity, which are two big things women with PCOS often struggle with.
Let's talk movement. What about those of us who maybe don't have a gym membership or, aren't marathon runners? What can we do?
Good news. You don't need to be an athlete to reap the benefits. A study from this year in the British Medical Journal found that just 30 minutes of brisk walking or even dancing 5 days a week can lower HbA1c by 0.7%. That's a real difference. And here's a pro tip. Take a 10-minute walk after meals. Research in diabetologia shows this can knock down those after-meal glucose spikes by 22%.
Love it. Short bursts add up. And for women, any specific types of exercise that are particularly beneficial for managing diabetes?
Oh yeah, there are. Studies from this year show that doing yoga, specifically 12 weeks of sun salutations, can improve insulin sensitivity by a whopping 15%. Plus, a lot of women find that yoga helps ease some of those pesky menopause symptoms too. Bonus.
Okay, let's talk sleep. We saw that study in Nature emphasizing how important it is. What are some actionable tips to actually prioritize sleep when you're managing diabetes?
Getting enough good sleep, it's like magic medicine. A 2025 study in the journal Sleep found that if you consistently get less than 6 hours, you're actually doubling your body's resistance to insulin. So yeah, sleep is non-negotiable. Here's a tip. Dim the lights about 2 hours before bed. Maybe use blue light filters on your devices. Research from Yale suggests this could help reduce glucose swings by about 18%. And for women, having a regular sleep schedule can really help stabilize those blood sugar fluctuations that come with hormonal cycles, especially during PMS.
Wow, so sleep and hormones, they're connected. Now let's dive into the gut microbiome. We talked about that promising Stanford study earlier. What can our listeners, how can you use your gut to help manage diabetes?
Well, those Stanford findings on probiotics, they're definitely exciting. A simple thing you can do is eat fermented foods. 2 tablespoons of kefir or kimchi daily. It helps boost those good gut bacteria, and research published in Gut shows it might lower post-meal sugar peaks by 12%. And get this is cool, especially for women. Women naturally have higher levels of a bacteria called lactobacillus in their gut. And you can support that even more through diet, which might be particularly helpful for managing PCOS or gestational diabetes.
Fascinating. All right, last but not least, stress. We all know it's bad, but how does that actually affect diabetes and what can we do about it?
Stress, it directly messes with your glucose levels. It's because of hormones, like cortisol. A Harvard study from this year found that just 20 minutes of mindfulness can reduce stress-related blood sugar spikes by 25%. So try incorporating some calming breath work into your day. Remember we talked about Kama Sutra-inspired breath work in a previous deep dive? Those slow, deep breaths, they can be a powerful tool for women, especially for finding that calm, that sense of control, even when things are crazy.
So there you have it, everyone. Smarter food choices, mindful movement, quality sleep, a happy gut, and managing that stress. These aren't just vague ideas, they're real, science-backed actions you can take to truly be in charge of your diabetes.
Absolutely. Diabetes isn't a life sentence, it's a condition, and proactive management gives you the power, the control. And for you, listening, especially if you're a woman, understanding your hormones, making choices that are right for you, that's the key to living a full, thriving life.
It's incredible how far we've come, isn't it? From those early observations of, well, let's just say, frequent trips to the bathroom, to the mind-blowing science of gene editing and all these practical tips from the latest research in between. It's a real journey, isn't it? Exploring the human body and its amazing complexities.
It really is. And when you think about it, from Sushruta back in the day, tasting urine to figure this thing out, to scientists today trying to actually rewrite our DNA, it's all driven by that human desire to understand and master our own biology. In a world where we're exploring the deepest oceans, the farthest reaches of space, maybe the most incredible frontier is right here, inside each of us. It's an invitation to be awake, aware, and truly unstoppable in our pursuit of well-being.
And on that note, we'll leave you to explore that frontier. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. See you next time.
See you then.